Cheryl studied psychology and was one of the few people in college who ever seemed to notice me. At 20, I was still a virgin, a fact that weighed heavily on my self-esteem. Dating. That felt as unattainable as winning a lottery ticket. Arrested for loitering? Maybe. But catching someone's romantic interest? Unlikely. We lived on the same floor in a code dorm, our rooms separated by just a narrow hallway. My roommate, Martin, was a track star with a natural athleticism that left me feeling even smaller, both literally and figuratively. If my size qualified me for anything, it might have been the shuffleboard or bowling team, assuming they'd let me join. It was the start of senior year, and while I knew my accounting major paired with a computer science minor would practically guarantee me a job after graduation, that was the lone bright spot in my otherwise uninspiring existence. Numbers made sense to me, unlike people. At least Martin appreciated my knack for math. He struggled with it in his marine biology program, and I'd helped him survive more than one tough test. He was grateful, sure, but being the math tutor to my athletic roommate wasn't exactly the social boost I needed. The frats didn't want me when I was a freshman, and summers at home were lonely, underscoring my status as a perennial outsider. Depression? Yeah, I had it. Cheryl, with her training, picked up on that pretty quickly, even though she wasn't in med school yet. I'm sure Cheryl noticed how often I stared at her, though she usually just gave me this quizzical look. Who could blame me? She was gorgeous, with an effortless style that exuded femininity. Dresses, skirts, heels, she leaned into being a woman with such ease. It was magnetic. Sure, she wore pants occasionally, but even then, there was always a pair of heels to complete the outfit. I admired her, envied her even. She was everything I wasn't: popular, attractive, confident, surrounded by friends and boyfriends alike. I couldn't compete. I had nothing in my life that even came close. Our friendship was both a balm and a curse. I liked being around her, but she made me feel small, like I didn't measure up. She treated me more like a girlfriend than a guy, which left me with mixed emotions. On one hand, it felt amazing to be accepted by someone so effortlessly cool. On the other, it was clear I didn't stand a chance with her romantically. Instead, we bonded over girl things. We'd do each other's nails, and she taught me how to French braid her hair, then other styles too. I got pretty good at it, actually, and she loved the way I did her nails. Her roommate, Ruth, barely tolerated me, though. One day, as I was about to knock on their door, I overheard Ruth say, "Cheryl, I don't understand why you waste time with Michael. He's such a wuss." Cheryl's reply stopped me cold. "He's my friend, and there's a lot more to him than you realize. More than even he realizes yet." Her words stuck with me, nagging at the edges of my mind. What did she mean by that? I didn't have time to ponder before I knocked on the door. One afternoon over coffee, Cheryl decided to address the elephant in the room. "Michael, we need to talk about this depression of yours. It's worrying me," she said with that direct yet caring tone she had. I couldn't exactly confess that my jealousy of her was part of the problem, but I did unload some of the other baggage weighing me down. She told me I was teetering on the edge of clinical depression, and she wanted to help. Maybe she sensed my envy. Maybe that's why everything unfolded the way it did. Cheryl, with her usual confidence and resourcefulness, had decided to take my depression into her own hands. Since she wasn't a licensed doctor yet, she couldn't prescribe standard medications, but that didn't stop her from finding alternatives. She sourced an herbal known antidepressant substitute and a couple of other organic remedies from a site online. These, she claimed, were designed to alleviate depression naturally. She handled the entire process, from research to ordering. When the bottles arrived about a week later, I offered to pay her back, but Cheryl, coming from a wealthy family with a limitless checking account, refused. Not wanting to offend her generosity, I accepted the gift. The instructions were straightforward: 2 pills from each bottle, twice a day. It seemed easy enough. I trusted Cheryl implicitly. She wouldn't steer me wrong. The labels were patent-stamped, which reassured me of their legitimacy, and she even printed out testimonials to show their effectiveness. Although the snippets she shared seemed oddly clipped and vague, the overall sentiment was positive. People reported feeling better, and that was all I needed to hear. By Thanksgiving, to my surprise, I was feeling better, less tense, sleeping more soundly, and my persistent headaches were fading. The street John's ward in one of the remedies seemed to be balancing my moods, while Cheryl assured me that the other pills were targeting the root of my depression. Whether it was placebo or real, I didn't care. Our friendship had grown closer during this period. Cheryl had become completely at ease with me, to the point of answering the door in little more than a bra and panties or a flimsy robe. It was happening more often, and I wasn't sure what to make of it. On one such occasion, I noticed her lingerie seemed new. It was unmistakably from Fredericks of Hollywood, exuding a bold and seductive elegance that made it hard for me to look anywhere else. She caught my stare and, to my mortification, didn't let it slide. "Do you like it?" she asked, teasingly. My stumbling affirmation only encouraged her. "I have another set in my drawer. Want to feel how silky it is?" she said, retrieving the other piece and handing it to me with a sly smile. And then she dropped the bomb. "Michael, would you like to try them on?" I froze. "You can't be serious," I stammered. "Why not? I know you admire how I dress. You obviously like this lingerie, and honestly, I think the weight you've been putting on would look great in it. Even the bra might fit after all. I'm a B cup, and you're probably up to an A by now." "A? An A? What are you talking about?" I replied, my voice tinged with panic. She gestured toward my chest. "Look at the front of your shirt." Glancing down, I suddenly noticed what she meant. My nipples pressed visibly against the fabric, slightly swollen, darker, and unmistakably tender. "Well, yeah, I guess I've gotten a little flabby," I muttered. "And I have noticed soreness. My shirts are rubbing my nipples raw, but it's not like I've gained weight in my middle or anything." "Michael," she said gently but firmly, "take your clothes off." "I can't do that in front of you," I protested, my face burning. "Why not? I'm standing here in my underwear. What's the big deal? Do you think I've never seen one of those little things before? Besides, it's not like you're packing a lot to begin with." Her bluntness left me speechless. "Oh, come on," she continued, rolling her eyes. "It's not like I'm going to jump you. I'm just trying to help. And if you're honest with yourself, I think you want to get into my panties, literally." I swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. Finally, I mumbled, "Yes, ma'am," half in jest, half in surrender. This was definitely not how I imagined my day going. There I was, standing stark naked in Cheryl's room, a mix of nerves and curiosity coursing through me. Thankfully, her roommate was away for a few days. "All right, step into these, and I'll show you how to put the bra on properly so you can experience the full effect," Cheryl said with a gleam of excitement in her eyes. "I think you're going to like this. They really do make the sexiest lingerie." I hesitated for only a moment before picking up the silky underwear. As I pulled them up my legs, a shiver rippled through my body, and goosebumps rose on my skin. The fabric was snug and luxurious, hugging me tightly. But my excitement quickly made itself known, betraying me. Cheryl noticed, of course. With a sly grin, she reached over and flicked her finger, causing a quick jolt of pain that startled me and effectively subdued Junior. "Now," she instructed calmly, "reach in and smooth out your front. Tuck it back." "Good." I followed her directions, still processing the surreal nature of this moment. My chest felt strange, my nipples were hard, standing erect like tiny pencil erasers. When had they grown this noticeable? What happened to the little nubs I used to have? I muttered, half to myself. "There, that's better," Cheryl said, surveying her work. "You don't want to ruin the moment." She tilted her head and gave me an appraising look. "Why, Mickey, your nipples and areolas almost look like a girl's. Have you been keeping secrets from me?" "What? No way," I stammered, and my voice lacked conviction. Cheryl handed me the matching bra. "It hooks in the front," she explained. "Once it's hooked, turn it around, pull it up, and slide the straps over your shoulders." As I fumbled through the motions, she reached into each cup lifting the small but undeniable mounds of flesh and arranging them on the bra's padded shelf. Holy shit, Cheryl. I look like I have breasts. I look like a girl. I gasped, staring at my reflection in the mirror. Cheryl smirked. You do have breasts, dear girlfriend, and they're coming along nicely. Coming along? Girlfriend. I echoed, my voice climbing in pitch. This can't be happening. No way, I said, shaking my head in disbelief. Way, Mickey. A definite way. So, do you like getting into my pants and bra? She teased with a mischievous grin. The absurdity of it all cracked the tension, and we both dissolved into giggles. Cheryl's laughter faded into a knowing look. You know what's obvious to me, dear Nikki? You've been wanting to do this for a long time, and it feels good, doesn't it? Yes, I admitted softly. I can't hear you, Mickey, she prodded, leaning closer. Yes, I repeated, a little louder. Still not loud enough, Cheryl said, her voice playful but insistent. Admit it, Mickey. Admit you want me to dress you from head to toe in my pretty things. Let me fix your hair, teach you how to use makeup, even pierce your ears. You'd love to be a pretty girl, wouldn't you? To be popular. Tell me, Mickey. This is your girlfriend, Cheryl, talking. We share everything, or at least, I thought we did. Her intensity overwhelmed me. By now, she was in full therapist mode, expertly guiding me toward a realization I hadn't dared to confront. My defenses crumbled. Damn it. She had cut through every layer of denial with surgical precision. The truth hit me like a tidal wave, and I sank onto her bed, burying my face in my hands. The sobs came hard and fast, uncontrollable, releasing years of confusion, envy, and yearning. Cheryl didn't say a word. She sat beside me, wrapping her arms around me, holding me steady as I unraveled. She offered tissues and soft reassurance, letting me cry it out. She was going to make one hell of a therapist, no doubt about it. This moment felt like a breakthrough, a revelation of desires I hadn't allowed myself to recognize, let alone articulate. Yes, I wanted to be pretty, to be seen, to be someone else, someone freer, someone like Cheryl. Finally, I looked up at her, my face blotchy and my eyes red. Well, Stacy, she said gently, emphasizing the name. I think we have our answer now, don't we? You've come to terms with it. So, let's figure out how to make your dreams a reality. Her words hung in the air, offering both promise and challenge. I wiped my face, exhaling deeply. You're right, I said, my voice steadier now. This has been buried inside me for so long. I didn't even know it was there. But now that it's out, I think I'm ready to deal with who I really am. So, what's next? Cheryl smiled, her expression a mix of pride and determination. Well, my dear girlfriend, she said, let's get started. Cheryl's words carried a playful challenge as she asked, actually, a garter belt and hose. Are you up for it? Are you ready to meet the person you've always wished you were? I nodded, taking a deep breath. Yes, Cheryl. I want to know. I'm not afraid anymore. Her face lit up with approval. All right then, let's get started. Pull your panties down just a little and hook this garter belt around your waist. Tuck the straps down under the panties and through the leg holes. She handed me a pair of stockings. Here's how you roll them up and attach them. Trust me, pantyhose is unsexy, I hate the stuff. But these, they're classic and elegant. Sexy as hell. Got them on? Good, now for a slit full or half. Oh, wait. I have a full slip with a power net middle. Try this one. It'll give you a better figure for now. For now, I echoed, already knowing her answer would throw me. She smiled knowingly. Honey, you're still blossoming. You won't need one of these for long. I rarely use them myself. Her words hit me in waves. I'm not depressed anymore, I admitted, almost surprised at my own realization. Good, she replied, satisfied. That means the pills are doing their job. You finally acknowledge what you want to be, a pretty girl and wear beautiful clothes. Those pills are helping make that happen. Keep taking them, and by the end of the term, maybe even by graduation, your figure could outshine mine. I blinked, my breath hitching. You mean they're changing me into a girl? Cheryl tilted her head thoughtfully. Not a real one, Stacy, but definitely an awfully convincing version. Your bosom, hips, and butt will keep filling out. Your thingy, as you call it, will become less functional. You might want to start sitting down to pee starting now. She chuckled softly, as if easing me into the truth. But in exchange, you'll gain so much more with sensations your breasts will bring, the joy of truly looking like the woman you've always wanted to be. I swallowed hard, but managed to nod. All right, the slip, I said, almost breathless as I smoothed it down over the stockings. Very nice, Cheryl affirmed, leading me to her vanity. Now sit down. I want to do a few little things. Her few little things turned into a full makeover. She numbed my earlobes with ice cubes and pierced them with T-pins, slipping in delicate diamond studs, probably real diamonds, knowing her. She arched my brows with precision, curled my chin-length hair, and expertly applied foundation, blush, eyeliner, and lipstick. A spritz of perfume completed the transformation. Cheryl handed me a blouse and skirt, and I managed to put them on with shaky but eager hands. Then she added the final touch, a pair of mid-heeled pumps. Stand up and turn around slowly, she said, stepping back to admire her work. I did as she asked, heart pounding in my chest. Oh, Stacy, she said, her voice almost reverent. You're going to break some hearts, believe me. Now, go look at yourself in the full-length mirror. My legs felt like jelly as I walked toward the mirror. I was terrified of meeting this me I'd hidden for so long. As I looked at my reflection, my breath caught. There she was. A flood of emotions overwhelmed me. Relief that I wasn't homely. Desire for the beautiful young woman in the mirror. Gratitude to Cheryl for helping me find my light. Joy at the possibility that this could truly be my life. Most of all, a deep, abiding sense of peace and excitement. This wasn't about sex or fetish, it was about wants, needs, feelings I had buried for years. And it was all coming to life, reflected back at me in vivid, undeniable reality. I stood there in silence, absorbing the moment, boning it into my memory. Cheryl, ever thoughtful, snapped a few pictures. Hey, I joked weakly, you're not going to blackmail me with those, are you? She laughed. Silly girl. These are for your scrapbook. Of course, I want one for myself too. Stacy, she asked gently. Yes, I replied, the name beginning to feel like my own. Do you know what the clinical name is for how you feel and who you want to be? I shook my head. No. You're a transsexual. Honorable. It's a psychiatric and medical condition, a blending of the mind and body where your identity doesn't match your physical self. But your mind is perfectly suited for a woman's body. Right now, you're at odds with your natural self. Does that make sense? It did, more than I could have imagined. Tears welled in my eyes, but this time they weren't from sadness. Yes, I said, voice steady and sure. It makes sense. Cheryl's next move was as bold as ever. All right, Stacy, what now? I asked hesitantly. She smiled, that mischievous gleam in her eye. Well, why don't you go grab your books and we can study together? Me, walk out like this. I could feel my face flush with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Of course, she said matter-of-factly. You want to be a real girl, don't you? You'll need to step out eventually. Besides, this will be exciting. Now, go on, get your books. Before I could protest, she practically shoved me out the door. I hesitated for a moment before heading to my room. I swung the door open, and the worst possible thing happened. Martin was there. He turned from his desk, confused for a split second before his eyes widened. Is that you, Mai? He started but stopped, his expression shifting into something almost predatory. I could feel him undressing me with his eyes. Well, hello. And who might you be? He asked, his voice dripping with curiosity. Thinking fast, I slipped into my best impersonation of a soft, feminine tone. Oh, my name is Stacy, I said. Stephen asked me to grab some books for him. Do you mind? He smirked, leaning back in his chair. Not at all. Go ahead. While I enjoy the view. As I gathered my books, I couldn't resist a parting shot. Did you enjoy it? I asked coyly as I turned to leave. "Oh, yes," he replied, his grin widening. "Drop by any time, Stacy. Did you say your name was Stacy?" "Yes," I said over my shoulder. "Stacy. Bye, Martin." It wasn't until I was safely back in Cheryl's room that it hit me I'd just pretended not to know my own roommate. Damn it. I hoped Martin wouldn't connect the dots, but knowing him, it was a long shot. When I returned to my room later, Martin was still there, nose buried in his notes. He greeted me as usual, but couldn't resist a jab. "Nice earrings, Mickey," he said with a smirk. I shot him a warning look, but he wasn't done. "You know," he added with mock sincerity, "I think big hoops would suit you better." "If you really think so, Martin," I shot back, "maybe I'll get some." The sarcasm in my tone was unmistakable, and he finally dropped it. As Christmas break approached, most of the dorm was abuzz with plans to head home. Before leaving, Cheryl handed me a neatly wrapped package. "Just a little something to keep both of yourselves connected over the holidays," she said with a wink. Curious, I opened it later to find 6 pairs of stunning satin panties. I was floored. Without thinking, I hugged her tightly and kissed her full on the mouth, a first for me. "Thank you, Cheryl," I whispered, overwhelmed. But there was more. Nestled in the package was a small box containing a pair of delicate hoop earrings and a set of dangles, along with a book on makeup techniques. I looked at her, my voice soft with gratitude. "You're too sweet to me, Cheryl. Thank you so much. It's only 2 weeks, but I'll miss you." "I'll miss you too, Stacy," she replied, her voice warm and full of sincerity. During Christmas vacation, I made a decision. If Stacy was going to exist, she deserved more than just wrinkled clothes stuffed in a suitcase. So I bought a new, larger suitcase and began assembling her wardrobe. Now that I knew my sizes, the collection grew. Lingerie, nightgowns, stockings, shoes of all kinds, skirts, dresses, slacks, blouses, jewelry, makeup, the works. When the suitcase was full, I decided Stacy deserved better. I hung everything up in my closet at home, careful to keep my secret intact. Mom didn't usually clean my room, so there wasn't much risk. Still, she immediately noticed the earrings. Neither Mom nor Dad was particularly thrilled about them. Dad gave me a few grumbles, but Mom quickly shut him down. If he wants to be eccentric or look like a girl, that's his business. He's about to graduate near the top of his class. He's had enough struggles. Please, stay off his back. Dad sighed but relented. "All right, Betty, I promise." For the first time, I realized Stacy might not just live in a suitcase or even in Cheryl's room. Maybe she could have a life, step by step. The thought made the holiday season feel brighter than it had in years. The morning after Christmas, things didn't go quite as planned. I had a skating date and was peacefully asleep when I felt the unmistakable presence of someone in my room. My mom had come in to wake me, but instead of finding her son, she discovered Stacy in all her glory. Hair pulled into a loose ponytail, lips painted with a soft sheen of lipstick, a delicate nightgown draped over me, and hoop earrings glinting in the light. Even my mules sat neatly beside the bed. In my groggy state, I barely had time to register her reaction. Her hand brushed the silky fabric of my nightgown as she shook my shoulder. When I turned over, the slight cleavage from my budding chest was unmistakable. For a moment, she just stared, her expression unreadable. Then, without missing a beat, she said calmly, "Honey, don't forget your skating date. It's time to get up. Hop to it, and you'd better clean yourself up a little." The words carried a weight I couldn't ignore. "Right, Mom. Thanks," I mumbled, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks. As she left, I buried my face in the pillow, my mind racing. My girl Woody, I just rubbed her nose in it. This wasn't how I wanted her to find out. I resolved not to bring it up, hoping she'd let it slide for now. If a conversation needed to happen, it would have to be on her terms. For the next week, I was on edge, waiting for the inevitable. Mom didn't say another word about that morning, but I could feel the question lingering in the air. January 5th was approaching, the day I'd head back to school, but on January 3rd, she finally broke the silence. "Honey," She began tentatively, "When I woke you up last week." "I know, Mom," I said softly, cutting her off. And she continued, her tone calm but serious. "I was hanging some pants in your closet on wash day, and, well, I guess I don't have to tell you what I found, do I?" I sighed, bracing myself. "No, Mom." She paused, then asked gently, "Would you care to explain, honey?" "I promise, I'm not angry. I just want to understand what's going on with my son." There it was, the moment I dreaded but also needed. I took a deep breath, searching for the words. "Well, Mom, the truth is, your son has been in therapy, psychotherapy, herbal therapy, and hormone therapy for the last 4 months because of severe clinical depression. What you found, that's part of the cure for my depression. It all came out during therapy." "Mom," my voice faltered, "I hope this doesn't break your heart, but I don't think you're going to have a son much longer." Her face softened, but she stayed quiet, giving me space to continue. "The reason I've been a loner all my life," I explained, "is because I was terrified someone would get too close and discover Stacy. That would have been a disappointment to so many people, so I tried my best to keep up the illusion of being your son. But Mom, I can't do that anymore. Stephen is a lie, and it's not healthy for me to keep pretending. You've seen the changes in me, how much better I've been, more outgoing, happier, even loving. That's because I'm finally being true to myself." Tears welled in her eyes as I continued. "Yes, Mom, everywhere. I've never been happy as a male, and by society's standards, I've never been much of a man. My counselor gave me a book I'd like you to read. It's called True Selves, and it explains everything you might want to know about my condition. I love you and Dad more than anything, and the last thing I want is to lose you. But if my mental health matters to you, please read it before you judge. Make Dad read it too. The book is far more eloquent than I could ever be." The room fell silent as I finished speaking. For a moment, I couldn't tell what she was thinking, but then she reached over and took my hand in hers, squeezing it gently. "Honey," she said, her voice steady but emotional, "I love you. We'll read the book, and we'll try to understand. I don't know what this means for us yet, but we'll figure it out together. I promise." And just like that, a burden I'd carried for years felt a little lighter. As I explained my plans to Mom, I could see the mix of emotions in her eyes: concern, confusion, love, and an overwhelming need to understand. I told her everything: how I would continue seeing a psychiatrist for the rest of the term and how, by the end of March, I would likely be recommended for intensive hormone therapy. I explained the legal process of changing my name so I could graduate as Stacy Coleman, with my new identity reflected on my records. I shared how I would need to live as a woman for a year before surgery, and how much of this transition, up until surgery, was reversible except, of course, my beard, which would be permanently gone, and my developing breasts, which would require surgery to undo. I tried to meet her gaze, though it was hard. "Mom, I know how difficult this must be for you, but I hope that our love can bridge this gap so we can stand together through it all. Will you support my decision?" Her voice was hesitant but kind. "Stephen, Stacy, I don't quite know what to say. You never showed any obvious signs." "I know, Mom. I didn't even know myself until a dear friend, someone studying psychology, helped me unlock my mind and my heart. This is what I've always wanted, even if I didn't understand it for years. I've been so lonely all my life, because I didn't know who I was. But now I do, and for the first time I like myself. Please tell me you still love me, because I think I'm about to cry." Her response was instant and reassuring. "Come here, Stacy. Cry in my arms if you need to." And I did. The tears came in waves, just like they had with Cheryl. But this time, it was my mother's embrace that made me feel grounded, accepted, and safe. She held me tightly, stroking my back as I let everything out. "You're still my child," she whispered. "Just a new and improved version of Stephen. The things I loved about him are still in you. The packaging is just going through a change. Yes, I still love you, and once your father understands, he will too. Don't worry. We'll help you through this. It's not going to be easy for any of us, but you won't face it alone. You'll need legal help, and luckily, Our insurance should cover the psychiatrist and the medication. We're not going to let you drown in this by yourself." Her support was more than I dared to hope for. "Thank you, Mom," I murmured through my tears. She smiled, determination sparking in her eyes. "I think I need to do some research." "What am I looking for, honey?" "It's called transsexualism, Mom. But please, read the book I gave you first, True Selves. A lot of what you'll find online is either garbage or, well, not the kind of information you want. I'll email you links to reliable resources, okay?" She nodded. "All right, dear, as you say." Later that day, as I prepared to head back to school, I couldn't help but reflect on how my life was changing. I dressed as Stacy from the skin out, but my shirt and jeans, though they were women's cuts, offered a more neutral appearance. My loafers were feminine too, but subtle. As I packed my things, I wondered how the rest of the school year would unfold. With my parents' help, I was confident I could navigate the administrative side of my transition, like changing my records. But what about Martin? How would he react as Stephen began to fade and Stacy took his place? Would he lash out, demand I move out? Or would he surprise me by being more accepting than I expected? Only time would tell. One thing was for sure: this year was going to be interesting. When I arrived at school, I wore the little hoop earrings Cheryl had given me. As I walked into my dorm room, I felt like Stacy in disguise, her true self tucked just beneath the surface. My movements had a newfound grace, a natural sway to my hips as I crossed the floor. I carefully hung up my clothes in the closet before heading over to Cheryl's room to put away my dresses and other items. Ruth was there, and as usual, she gave me the look, a mix of disdain and confusion. I ignored her, smiling to myself as I left. This was my life now, and I was ready to live it. Martin's eyes lingered on my hoop earrings as I entered the room, and I knew he was dying to say something. Before he could, I broke the tension with a joke. "Well," I said with a wry smile, "the larger hoops were your idea, but I didn't think the really big ones looked nice with this outfit." His chuckle seemed genuine, though I caught his brow furrowing slightly. I resisted the urge to blow him a kiss and opted instead to focus on my strategy for keeping Stacy under wraps. I'd started wearing a sports bra with seamless cups to bind my chest, hoping it would tame the noticeable bounce I'd developed. It helped to a degree, but Martin wasn't stupid. The illusion that I'd been hitting the gym was laughable, and I could tell he wasn't buying it. I was careful to change in the bathroom, keeping my hamper out in plain sight to discourage any curiosity. My sleepwear was subtle girls' soap pajamas with plain piping, but still safe enough to pass for unisex. Laundry was another matter entirely. Washing bras and panties in the sink and leaving them to dry in the shared bathroom was obviously out of the question, so I took my clothes to the campus laundry, hoping to avoid any awkward encounters. Life was progressing smoothly. My grades remained strong, my psychiatric recommendation had gone through, and the legal paperwork for my name change was finalized back in Cuyahoga Falls. I was now officially Stacy Coleman, fully immersed in pre-op TS therapy. By late April, I had come a long way since Christmas. My chest had grown to a B+ cup, hard to conceal even with the sports bra, and Junior was well on its way to being a memory. Cheryl had become my lifeline for building confidence in public. We'd go out for lunch, dinner, or a movie, and each outing felt more natural. I wasn't afraid of being seen as Stacy anymore. In fact, I was thriving. My growing self-assurance mirrored the physical changes in my body, which was gradually redistributing itself. While I'd lost a little weight overall, my curves were blossoming hips, butt, and chest all rounding out into a distinctly feminine silhouette. Martin, of course, could never see me undressed. I was careful not to even let him glimpse me in underwear. One evening, while I was hanging out at Cheryl's room, Martin showed up looking for Stephen. "Oh, hi, Stacy," he said casually as he stepped in. Cheryl's eyes widened slightly. "Oh," she said, feigning surprise, "you two know each other." "We met a couple months ago when I went to grab some of Stephen's books," I explained smoothly. "Stephen won't be back until later," Cheryl interjected. Martin sighed, clearly frustrated. I was hoping he could help me with a math problem. I hesitated for a moment, then decided to take a risk. "I'm in his math class," I offered. "Maybe I can help." Cheryl shot me a questioning look. "Stacy, are you sure about this?" "It'll be fine," I assured her. Then, turning to Martin, I added, "We'll leave the door open, won't we, Martin?" "Of course," he said, flashing a sheepish grin. "Don't want to break the rules." Back in our shared room, I sat down with Martin to go over his math problem. It didn't take long to solve, and he seemed genuinely grateful. "You're as good at this as my roommate," he said, "but a heck of a lot prettier." "Why, thank you, kind sir," I replied with a playful smile, enjoying the banter. Then he blindsided me. "Stacy, would you consider going to the senior prom with me? I think you're a real fox, and I'd love to take you if you don't already have a date." For a moment, I was stunned. He was completely serious. Somehow, I managed to recover. "Can I have a day or two to think about it, Martin?" "Sure," he said, looking hopeful. "Thank you," I replied. "I promise I'll give you an answer in a few days." With that, I gathered my things and returned to Cheryl's room, my mind racing. What had just happened? The next 5 minutes in Cheryl's room were filled with muffled giggles and wall-pounding laughter as we tried to process what had just happened. I couldn't help but feel sorry for Martin. He had no idea the truth behind his invitation to the prom. The thing was, I liked Martin a lot. And truthfully, I was thrilled at the idea of going to the prom as his date. But the thought of something going terribly wrong, of him finding out and reacting badly, was enough to keep me on edge. "Cheryl," I said, wiping tears of laughter from my eyes, "will you help me smooth out the rough edges and teach me how to dance backwards in high heels?" "Of course, honey," she replied, grinning. "That's what big sisters are for. We can start right now. They keep the gym open late, and I'll bring my little radio. You grab a pair of flats to start with, and then we'll work up to the heels, okay?" "Super," I said, excited. "Let's do it." Half an hour later, I had graduated from Cheryl's impromptu dance school. Following was a whole different experience, but I was starting to get the hang of it. My confidence grew, step by step, and I decided I was ready. The next day, I told Martin I'd be happy to go to the prom with him. He seemed genuinely pleased, and I couldn't help but feel a swell of pride and excitement. Cheryl offered to loan me the gown she had worn to her prom the year before, a stunning pale blue taffeta number with a strapless bodice, a bow at the waist, and a high slit on one side that showed off plenty of leg. It was just an inch shorter on me, and paired with a push-up strapless bra, it promised to leave Martin dazzled. The gown cinched my waist slightly, making my full hips even more pronounced. I was going to wear pantyhose that night, though. There was no way I could risk Martin getting too close. That evening after dinner, I grabbed my things and headed out. Martin, noticing me leave, asked, "Hey, where you going?" "I got a date, Martin," I replied breezily. "Got to go pick up my dancing clothes. See ya later, buddy." I went straight to Cheryl's room, where the usual chaos of prom night was in full swing. Ruth, surprisingly, was warming up to me and even seemed amused by the scam Cheryl and I were pulling on Martin. Maybe she just didn't like boys. The three of us worked together to get ready, a flurry of hairspray, lipstick, and laughter, until we were finally done by 7:30. The boys were scheduled to pick us up at 8. None of us wanted to be the first ones to arrive at the dance. Martin was the second to show up, looking sharp in his suit and tie. When he saw me, his eyes lit up. "You look beautiful," he said sincerely. "That dress is amazing." I blushed, feeling a warmth spread through me. Cheryl had done an incredible job styling my hair into a pile of loose curls, a few strands artfully framing my face. My dangling earrings sparkled, and the subtle scent I wore was one I knew Martin liked. For the first time, I found myself seeing him not just as my roommate, but through a girl's eyes. He was cute, tall, athletic, and smart. He'd probably make some girl a great husband someday. The prom itself was as fun as any highly chaperoned event could be. Someone managed to sneak a fifth of vodka into the punch, which added a little excitement and loosened everyone up. I didn't get to dance with Martin all night, of course. The girls had dance cards, and mine filled up quickly. I penciled in breaks for refreshments, trips to the powder room, and resting my aching feet. Martin, it turned out, was a great dancer. During the slow songs, he held me close, his chest brushing against my bosom. I found it natural to wrap my arms around his neck, which left his hands resting comfortably on my hips and occasionally venturing to my tush. We talked, laughed, and danced, and for those few hours, I forgot about Stephen entirely. I was Stacy, and I was loving every moment of it. After leaving the dance before it officially ended, we joined a party at a nearby frat house that raged well into the night. By 2 a.m., I was exhausted and a little tipsy. Leaning against Martin, I told him, "I think it's time to head back. Could you drop me off at the dorm?" "Of course," he said, his voice warm and easy. As we drove back, I realized just how much I have enjoyed the night, not just as a fun event, but as a real step toward living fully as Stacy. "Sure, honey. Anything you say," Martin replied with a warm smile as he pulled up in front of the dorm. As I stepped out of the car, I noticed the light in Cheryl's room was still on. It felt comforting to know she was awake, probably waiting to hear all about the night. Once we reached our floor, I headed straight for her door, eager to share every detail of my evening. Just as I raised my hand to knock, Martin suddenly turned me around, catching me completely off guard. Before I could react, he kissed me deep, passionate, and overwhelming. My mind spun as I registered what was happening. I had dreaded this moment, uncertain of how I feel or respond, but to my surprise, I kissed him back. It was natural, even thrilling. As the kiss ended, he looked into my eyes and thanked me for the evening, telling me he wanted to take me out again. "I'd like that," I replied, barely able to contain the swirl of emotions inside me. I turned back to Cheryl's door, ready to knock again, when Martin gently grabbed my gloved hand. "Aren't you going to the wrong room, Stacy?" he asked, his voice teasing but soft. "What do you mean, Martin?" I said, attempting to play innocent. "I'm just visiting Cheryl." He smirked knowingly. "Maybe, you little fox, but you live across the hall with me, or didn't you know that?" The blood drained from my face as I realized what he meant. I stammered, "Martin, But the weight of the moment, combined with sheer panic, hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt the world tilt, and the next thing I knew, everything went black. When I came to, I was lying on the floor with Cheryl hovering over me, concern etched across her face. "Oh, Stacy," she cried, "what did you do to her, Martin?" "Not a thing," Martin said, his voice calm but concerned. "I just asked her to come into her own room instead of yours." Cheryl's eyes widened. "You've known how long?" Martin sighed. "I suspected something when Stephen came back after Christmas with earrings that looked like Stacy's. Then he got secretive, wouldn't even let me see him in his shorts anymore. So I started looking for answers. I found a few hints in his laundry hamper, but the big confirmation came when a friend in the registrar's office told me he'd filed for a name change to Stacy Louise." He paused, glancing at me as I stared. "To tell you the truth," he continued, "I think she's a fox, and I really have a good time tonight. I think Stacy will be much happier than Stephen ever was, so I'm okay with it. She's going all the way, isn't she?" "Yes, Martin," Cheryl replied. "All the way. Her parents are on board too." Martin nodded thoughtfully. "Well, it's only a week until school's out. If she wants to bring her clothes over here, that's fine with me. And I promise, I won't attack her," he added with a small laugh. "I'd really like to take her out again and see where things go. I might be making a fool of myself, but I mean it." Cheryl softened, her initial suspicion giving way to a smile. "My lord, Martin, you're not the male oinker I thought you were. That's actually very sweet. I think she's waking up now. Help her up and walk her into your room. I have a feeling you two have a lot to talk about." Martin gently lifted me to my feet, his arm around my waist for support. "Come on, little lady," he said, his voice warm and steady. "It's time for bed. You need some sleep." Wobbling slightly in my 3-inch heels, I walked unsteadily into my room, leaning against him for balance. Cheryl and Ruth followed close behind, carrying my clothes, shoes, makeup, and other essentials. Within minutes, everything was neatly deposited in my closet and drawers, as if this was where Stacy had belonged all along. When they left, I sank into the overstuffed chair, still in my gown, shoes, and makeup. A silly grin spread across my face as I tried to process everything that had just happened. Martin sat across from me, watching me with an amused but kind expression. Finally, I gathered the courage to speak. "Martin, I wouldn't have accepted your invitation if I didn't really like you." "I feel the same way, Stacy," he replied, his tone earnest. "I've known about you for a while but figured if you wanted to tell me you would. You did, just not in the way I expected." He paused, searching my face. "Are you okay?" I nodded, my smile softening. "I think so, Martin. I think I'm more than okay." The week flew by in a whirl of excitement, nerves, and a growing connection between Martin and me. Every shared moment seemed to deepen our bond, yet the uncertainty of the future loomed quietly in the back of my mind. Would he still feel the same once my journey was complete? Would this affection we were building survive the changes ahead? On our last night before school let out, Martin surprised me. He had planned a small picnic in the park under the stars, complete with a checkered blanket, a basket of treats, and even a thermos of hot cocoa. It was sweet and thoughtful, the kind of thing that melted my heart. As we sat side by side, his arm draped over my shoulders, I confessed, "Martin, I had more fun this week than I thought possible. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous about what's ahead for me, for us." He turned to face me, his blue eyes catching the faint glow of the moonlight. "Stacy, I won't pretend I understand everything you're going through. But what I do know is that I care about you deeply. The rest? We'll figure it out together. I'm not going anywhere unless you ask me to." Tears pricked my eyes, and I leaned into him, resting my head on his chest. "You're too good to be true, Martin. But this is a lot to ask of anyone." "It's not a burden, Stacy," he said softly. "It's a privilege. You've shown me who you really are, and I've never admired anyone more. You're brave, beautiful, and completely unforgettable." His words broke down the last wall of doubt inside me. I tilted my face up toward his, and he leaned in, our lips meeting in a kiss that was slow, tender, and filled with unspoken promises. It wasn't just a kiss, it was an anchor, a reassurance that I wasn't facing the future alone. The following morning, as we said our goodbyes, Martin handed me a small envelope. "Don't open this until you're on the plane," he said with a teasing smile. Curiosity burned, but I honored his request. Once I was seated and the plane took off, I finally opened the envelope to find a handwritten letter and a tiny silver charm shaped like a heart. The letter read, "Stacy, this week has been one of the best of my life. Seeing you smile, hearing your laugh, and holding you in my arms has made me realize just how lucky I am to know you. I don't know what the future holds, but I know this I'll be there as often as you'll let me. I want to see you grow into the person you've always wanted to be. And if you'll have me, I'd love to be part of your journey, not just now, but in all the days to come. Yours, Martin." Over the next few months, Martin kept his promise. True to his word, he made those commuter flights from Detroit to Cleveland, showing up with flowers, sweet words, and that irresistible charm. He was patient and supportive through every step of my transformation, never once wavering in his affection. By the time I completed my transition, Martin was waiting with open arms and an even fuller heart. He saw me as Stacy, not just in name or appearance, but in every way that mattered. The love we had built grew stronger, unshaken by the changes that had once filled me with doubt. One crisp autumn evening, while we walked hand in hand through the park where we'd had our first picnic, he stopped suddenly. Dropping to one knee, he pulled out a small velvet box. "Stacy," he began, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, "you've taught me more about love, courage, and authenticity than I ever thought possible. You've shown me what it means to be true to yourself and to share that truth with someone else. I don't want to just be part of your journey, I want to walk beside you for the rest of my life. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down my cheeks as I nodded, barely able to choke out the words. "Yes, Martin. 1,000 times, yes." In that moment, every fear, every doubt melted away. I wasn't just Stacy, I was loved, accepted, and ready to step into a future where happiness and authenticity were mine to claim. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly, completely whole.